Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an incredible anatomical tour of the human body to decode a system that controls, well, practically everything about us. Think about how your home internet is set up. You've probably got an Ethernet cable physically plugged into your computer for that super fast, direct connection. But you also have Wi-Fi, right? Broadcasting signals completely invisibly through the air to connect all your other devices. Well, our bodies work the exact same way. And today, we're going to focus entirely on our biological Wi-Fi, the endocrine system. Here's the roadmap for our top-down journey. We're going to break down this massive corporate hierarchy inside you. We'll kick things off with part 1, the body's chemical messengers. Then we'll head up to the brain for part 2, the master command centers. Next is part 3, managing metabolism and energy, followed by part 4, stress, immunity, and rhythms. We'll wrap up the anatomical tour with part 5, reproduction and local regulators, before finishing with part 6, exactly how hormone messages work at the cellular level.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the body's chemical messengers, Ethernet versus Wi-Fi. So as we just mentioned, your body has two primary ways of communicating with itself. Your neural system is basically that physical Ethernet cable. It's incredibly fast and it provides super precise point-to-point coordination. But the effects are really short-lived, and nerves simply don't plug into every single cell in your body. To continuously regulate all of our cellular functions, we need the endocrine system. This is our Wi-Fi. It uses chemical messengers, operates in just trace amounts, and broadcasts widespread intracellular signals to reach all the cells that the nervous system just can't get to. But what exactly are these chemical Wi-Fi signals? Well, hormones are non-nutrient chemicals that act as intercellular messengers, and they're produced in trace amounts. And honestly, that last part is mind-blowing. Even microscopic, absolute trace amounts of these chemicals circulating in our blood dictate massive physiological changes throughout your entire life. It is incredibly potent stuff. We can actually see all the major human endocrine glands right here. Notice how they're completely ductless and just scattered throughout the body. We're going to use this anatomical map for our top-down tour today. We'll start right up in the brain and work our way all the way down to the pelvis to see how these highly localized glands manage to control the whole machine. Moving on to section 2, the master command centers, the brain's boardroom.
What's truly fascinating here is the relationship between two specific structures in the brain, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus is the basal part of the brain, and it regulates a massive spectrum of body functions. But it does this mostly by sending releasing and inhibiting hormones down a tiny stalk to strictly control the pituitary gland, which sits right below it in a little bony cavity. Think of the hypothalamus as the board of directors giving the big picture orders, and the pituitary as the president actually carrying them out.
Let's zoom in on the anterior, or the front part of that pituitary gland. It really acts like a regional manager for the body. It produces very specific hormones to direct an incredible array of downstream targets. It sends out growth hormone for your body growth, prolactin for the mammary glands, TSH to stimulate the thyroid, ACTH to trigger the adrenal cortex, and LH and FSH to manage the gonads. It's an absolute central hub, constantly sending out direct commands to practically the rest of the body.
But here's the catch. The endocrine system relies heavily on a Goldilocks principle. Having just the right amount is everything. Take growth hormone, or GH, for example. If there's an oversecretion during childhood, it stimulates abnormal growth, leading to gigantism. Undersecretion results in stunted growth, known as dwarfism. And if there's excess secretion later in adulthood, particularly middle age, it causes a severe disfigurement of the face and extremities called acromegaly, which can lead to serious complications and even premature death if it goes unchecked. Balance is literally a matter of life and death.
Section 3, managing metabolism and energy, the neck and abdomen managers. Right in your neck, sitting on either side of your trachea, is the thyroid gland. And if you look closely at the back side of the thyroid, there are 4 little dots tucked away there. Those are the parathyroid glands. They're physically connected, but do very different things. The thyroid plays an absolutely crucial role in maintaining your basal metabolic rate, basically how fast your engine burns energy. Meanwhile, the parathyroid secretes a hormone that perfectly balances your blood calcium levels, either by stimulating bone resorption or reabsorbing calcium from your digested food whenever you need it. Let's talk about the dangers of extremes again, this time with the thyroid. If you don't get enough iodine in your diet, hormone synthesis drops. This is hypothyroidism.
It can cause the gland to enlarge, known as a goiter, and during pregnancy, it can lead to severely stunted growth in the baby called cretinism. On the flip side, you have hyperthyroidism, where the gland is oversecreting and just racing through energy. A severe form of this is Graves' disease, which causes a wildly increased basal metabolic rate, rapid weight loss, and even protruding eyeballs.
A massive part of this energy management is how the pancreas balances our blood glucose. It does this through tiny clusters of cells called the islets of Langerhans. It's essentially a chemical tug-of-war. Alpha cells secrete glucagon to increase blood sugar when it drops too low by breaking down glycogen in the liver. Conversely, beta cells secrete insulin to decrease blood sugar when it spikes too high by pushing that glucose into your cells. They work in total tandem. A breakdown here, like prolonged high blood sugar or the inability to utilize insulin, leads directly to the complex disorder we know as diabetes mellitus.
Next up, Section 4, Stress, Immunity, and Rhythms, Defense and Daily Cycles. Sitting like little caps right on top of your kidneys are the adrenal glands. As you can see, the gland has two major parts. The inner part, the adrenal medulla, handles sudden, acute emergencies. It secretes adrenaline and noradrenaline. These are your classic fight or flight hormones. When you get a sudden jump scare, they instantly cause those sweaty palms, dilated pupils, and a rapidly racing heart by breaking down glycogen for a super quick burst of energy.
Now, the outer layer, the adrenal cortex, manages longer-term stress and fluid balance. It secretes glucocorticoids, like cortisol, which actually suppresses immune responses and produces anti-inflammatory reactions. It also secretes mineralocorticoids, like aldosterone, which acts on your renal tubules to keep your water and electrolytes perfectly balanced. If the cortex dangerously underproduces these vital hormones, it alters your carbohydrate metabolism, causing acute weakness and fatigue. That's a very serious condition known as Addison's disease.
Let's group together two very different glands that handle our internal timing and training. Back up in the brain, the tiny pineal gland secretes melatonin. This fundamentally manages our 24-hour internal clock, keeping our sleep-wake diurnal rhythms in check. Down in the chest, right behind your sternum, the thymus secretes thymosins. This gland acts as a crucial training camp for your immune system's T lymphocytes. Interestingly enough, the thymus naturally degenerates as we age, which explains exactly why our immune response naturally weakens as we get older.
Section 5, Reproduction and Local Regulators, the final stops on our tour. Let's briefly contrast the primary sex organs, which actually double as absolutely crucial endocrine glands. In males, the testes produce androgens like testosterone. These drive muscular growth, male behavior, and the process of spermatogenesis. In females, the ovary produces estrogen and progesterone, which stimulate the development of secondary sex organs, mammary glands, and directly support the progression of pregnancy. These targeted chemical messengers dictate our fundamental development and reproductive viability.
But wait, the endocrine system actually has some surprising bonus factories. Even organs you wouldn't traditionally think of as glands secrete hormones to regulate critical functions on the fly. The atrial wall of your heart secretes ANF to literally dilate blood vessels and lower blood pressure when it spikes. Your kidney produces erythropoietin to tell your body to create new red blood cells. And your GI tract releases local hormones like gastrin, secretin, and CCK to perfectly time and manage your digestive juices as food passes through. It's a massive coordinated effort. Okay, so we've mapped out exactly what these hormones do across the entire body. But that leaves a massive, lingering question for us. How do these chemical messengers actually alter our cellular behavior? Let's answer that in Section 6, How Hormone Messages Work, the Cellular Inbox.
Let's walk through the actual step-by-step mechanism of how these signals get the job done. First, a hormone travels through the blood to a target tissue. Second, it doesn't just bump into any random cell and start working. It has to bind to a specific protein receptor on the membrane or inside the target cell. Third, this forms a hormone receptor complex. Fourth, this complex essentially logs in, generating a second messenger inside the cell or interacting directly with the cell's genome. And finally, step 5, this biochemical cascade creates the physiological response we actually see.
The ultimate takeaway here is that each receptor is specific to one hormone only. It is just like a precise password for a highly secure Wi-Fi network. The message only goes exactly where it is meant to go. Every single second of every day, this incredibly precise, microscopic communication keeps you alive, perfectly balancing your energy, stress, and growth. Which leads you to wonder, what exactly happens to the body when these tiny cellular receivers mutate or shut down entirely?
Think about that for a bit. Thanks for joining me for this explainer today.